Crutches to aid decision making are essentially gadgets or devices or engines that help people make better choices. We're going to talk about 5 different kinds of crutches that help people make better decisions. And here they are. Let me start off at the top. The simplest crutch you can provide people is data or feedback. When you think about the behaviors we engage in, how much we save, how much we consume, how much garbage we produce, if you think about it, there is very little feedback we get on a day-by-day basis that tells us how much we have consumed. Simple idea. If you had a gadget or a device that simply told people who paid by credit cards how much they had spent up to that point in time in a given month, would spending reduce? And the answer is yes. Another simple experiment that we did at a fairly small scale in the city of Toronto was we actually gave people feedback on the amount of garbage they had produced in a given period of time, and just getting that feedback made people more aware of the fact that they had trashed a whole lot of things, and in fact the rate of recycling in those households went up. Second decision aid is advice. If you're struggling with the decision, ask someone else to help you make that decision. That somebody else could be an expert, it could be a wealth advisor, it could be a doctor, it could be a healthcare practitioner, or it could just be a friend, it could be somebody like you. You could collect advice from an individual, an expert, or a group. And in particular, we've been hearing a lot about things like the wisdom of crowds, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through as well. So the second piece of decision support that one could give people is just the input, the advice, the recommendation of somebody else. The third thing that we could do is to provide cases or databases of other similar situations in the past that might help them predict what the outcome is going to be. Think of a simple example. Let's say you're a loan officer, a company applies to you for a loan, or you are a MBA admissions officer in a business school and you get an application from a student to join your MBA program. One way in which you could decide what this student is going to be like or what this company's creditworthiness is going to be is to say, well, gee, let me see if I can find some other company or some other student who looked like this one 5 years back. And let me actually see what's happened to this other person or this other company. And so retrieving an instance that is similar to the one at hand and using the information from that instance to make a judgment about the current instance is an example of what we call a case-based or a data-based decision support system. Fourth thing we could do is to offer a structured model. We've talked a lot about the fact that you could think about the value or the utility as the weightage of an attribute multiplied by the level of the attribute and then added across every single attribute for the option. If you actually had a simple online device that knew your weighting system for each of these attributes and could simply accept values for that option on each attribute, it could compute a utility and tell you what the score for a given individual, for a given company, for a given option is going to be. So that would be an example of a simple model-based decision support system. Likewise, you could also use judgment bootstrapping to create a model of yourself that can be used to support your decision. And the fifth is something we've talked about a fair bit a couple of weeks back. Giving people a consumption vocabulary allows them to better develop a framework to make a decision. Objects of art, bottles of wine, fine quilts, and classical music are all hard for people to evaluate because they don't know the right attributes. And so providing them with a vocabulary to evaluate and give weight to each of those attributes will actually improve the quality of their decision making. So 5 simple ways in which we can provide crutches to help people make better choices.